Hey guys, MeLikeBigBoom here, and welcome to Unturned 3.15.5.0. This week's update added lots of awesome things, including a gas mask, new glass to cover up our windows, as well as some new furniture/storage options for our own homes. Now, regarding these new changes, without further ado, let's check out the new glass that was added in this week's update. Now, right in this corner of my little update central, I don't know what to call it. I probably should have given it an official name, to be honest. But over here in the corner here, we have new glass options that we can use to cover up our windows. These are super cool. So now we have shutters and bars barricades. And I think that's all we really had before. And now we have the option of putting glass over our windows so that we can see out of our windows while still being safe. Very cool. Now, we have three different options currently. We have weak glass that's currently vulnerable to gunshots and all that good stuff, even people coming up and punching. Probably don't want to put that on your window, but whatever, you can put that down. And then also we have bulletproof glass. It's got sparks coming out of it. This is invincible to bullets and can only be destroyed with explosives. And then we have one-way glass, which is very cool. It has the same crafting recipe as the bulletproof glass, and it is still bulletproof, except this one is special in that it's one way. You look over here, you can't see in it. Well, you can see a little bit right there. If I was standing in front of this window, like you can see the outline of my head right there in my gun. But yeah, it's practically fully one way, and then you can see out the other way. So you can look outside of your base and you can see people and they won't be able to see you. These two, the bulletproof and the one-way glass, is crafted from two weak glass, and the weak glass is crafted with two metal sheets and a campfire. So essentially, in order to craft a bulletproof glass to cover up your windows, you're going to need 4 metal sheets or 8 scrap metal. It's a relatively simple crafting recipe, and you also need to consider that you aren't going to be able to shoot at this. This is the only thing that this is really doing is covering up your windows and allowing you to see out of it. They don't really provide anything more than that. You're not going to be able to shoot out of these, so that's why it has such a simple crafting recipe. Over here to the right, we have new torches or ways of lighting up our homes. I'm sure many of you guys have come across all these torches whenever you visit a fire station or a mechanic shop or gas station or whatever. You find these torches freaking everywhere, and you don't really know what to do with them, so I just kind of throw them. I find them all over the place, but now they actually do have somewhat of a use. You can turn them into a torch using the crafting recipe on the screen right now, and then you can put them on your walls, and then they will kind of glow the color of the torch that you found. So these are all the colors that they come in. I think I might have missed a few, but they really just come in all the different colors that you find torches in, and you can craft them into torches, put them on your walls, and they light up your base. And you might be able to put it like in a dance room or something, because they do light up the color that they glow, so that's pretty cool. Up next, we have the new gas mask. Now, this is considerably complex. It is technically just wow, I look awesome. This gas mask is what allows you to go into the dead zones. Those are the areas that give you radiation sickness when you go in them, and also as of last week, they have the glowing green zombies that explode in radioactive goo whenever you kill them. Now, the intention is that in the future, there will be super high tier loot in those locations, so you're gonna need to gear up with friends to raid those dead zone locations, and gas masks are one way of doing so. Now, when you go into a dead zone now, whether you have a gas mask or a biohazard suit, the quality of them will go down. So when I go in here, you saw it said entering dead zone, and I'm not actually losing any sort of sickness because I do have that gas mask on. And the same would apply if I had the biohazard suit on. But you look in here, it's now down to 94%, and I got hit by zombies, and it's gonna go down even more, now to 92. And then to 91, it's going down. So when I'm actually in these dead zone areas, I'm gonna need to move quickly before my gas mask eventually breaks, and I'm gonna start actually taking that sickness damage. Now, what you can do is you can bring these gas mask filters, and these you equip them, and then you can screw them onto your gas mask like so, and then it will bring it back up to 100%. So when you go to raid these dead zone areas, when they have high tier loot, or when the dead zones are huge in surface area, you would basically have to bring a bunch of filters and a bunch of gas masks, and you go in there with friends and you'd raid the place. You try and get as much loot as you can. Whenever your gas mask runs out, you'd screw on new filters as such, and then you'd get the heck out of there, and then you'd have to gear up for the next raid. So it's just another way of making adventuring into dead zone areas that much more difficult for when the stuff actually in the dead zone zones is super good stuff. But anyway, that's how the gas mask works, as well as the new dead zone mechanics. I think it's pretty cool, especially once we start getting some very high tier items actually in those dead zones. Doing raids like that and gearing up with friends and going in the dead zone is going to be pretty fun. Moving on, we have tons and tons of new furniture, as I'm sure you guys have seen. We have wardrobes, umbrellas, beach coolers, tons of tables both in rectangles and squares and circles, and then we have beach lounge chairs. All these are very cool. To start, wardrobes are the biggest storage options we have yet. The metal wardrobe, like, look at this, that is crazy. And of course, these are going to have the most hefty of crafting recipes in order to create a wardrobe, and they're also the biggest in regards to like how much physical space they take up in your base compared to lockers or anything of that nature. But they do come in maple, birch, pine, and metal, and they just are simply the biggest storage options that we have so far. Pine is the biggest of the wood ones, as always, and then the metal ones is the biggest of all, and they also can only be accessed by you or the people in your group. And then we also have the beach umbrella. This doesn't really have much of a use, except it just kind of is there to protect you from the sun. It's just style, you know. You can make your base all fashionable, make a cool little backyard or something. That's really what most of this furniture stuff here is for, to allow you to stylize your base once you actually do have the resources to do so. This beach cooler is also a storage, but it's also kind of a style aspect here. So you can put this in your backyard and you can also store stuff in here. It doesn't have that much room, but it's still storage nonetheless. Then we have tables. Here are the rectangle ones, and then we have the square ones here, smaller in size, and then we have the circular tables here, like dining tables. We don't have chairs yet, I don't think, but maybe that will be in the future. And then over here we have the beach lounge chair here. It unfortunately does not function as a bed or a cot or anything, so it's really just kind of style once again. Over here we had a nifty little mechanic that was added. We can now slide down steep surfaces, so climbing up very steep, like basically cliff sides. Really, you can't do that anymore. Once you start climbing up some super steep stuff like this, you will slide down. And that wasn't like that before. Before, you'd be able to like jump up this, and you get stuck on it, and then you'd be able to kind of jump up. But that doesn't really happen anymore. You just kind of slide down. Also, I put this grizzly here to showcase the new scope sway. It has been reduced by a little bit. In my last video, I didn't realize that I had my diving skill all the way up max. And so as a result, it made the scope sway not too much. And it turns out that when I did not have my diving skill all the way up, the scope sway was actually insane. Like, so I didn't really get to show that in last week's update video, but now it has definitely been reduced. This is what the scope sway is like when I'm not moving the mouse without any sort of skill. So this is what it looks like, and then you can still hold shift and it will be like that. And then it's still super easy to keep your mouse looking in the same direction. And this is without any sort of skill points put into the diving category. So once you actually do have some skills in there, you'll be set. I mean, scope sway is really not going to be that much of an issue. We also got 12 new curated workshop items. I don't think we've ever had this many curated items be added to the workshop at one moment in time, but on the screen right now is what those new curated workshop items look like. Very cool. The link to the Unturned stockpile will be in the description down below if you guys would like to purchase some of those items. Also, for you Twitch streamers out there, myself included, we got a new streamer mode. This is awesome. It's going to make streaming Unturned anonymously a lot easier. Now, with games like this in the survival genre, it does make streaming very difficult. I mean, you have issues with stream sniping, where people join the server and by watching the stream are able to figure out where you are and then kill you. It just makes it very not fun to play the game. Now, with this new streamer mode, it makes it very difficult for people to find the server that you're playing on with the information that you show on the screen. When I press M, all the other people on the server have been replaced with funny names. You can tweak this, by the way, by modifying the file streamernames.json, but right now it's got Nelson AI Farmer, Bot Nelson, Nelson AI version 4, stuff like that. It's very funny, but it basically hides all the other player names, and then also when you press escape, it says Washington on streamer mode. It also shows that on the loading screen there. And then lastly, people can't connect to you by visiting your Steam profile. When they click join game when you're on streaming mode, it just simply won't do anything. It won't show them what server you're playing on. So anyway, all this is just to make it so that when you don't want people able to figure out what server you're on, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to combat that. But anyway, that was everything that was added in Unturned 3.15.5.0. There were a few minor little tweaks and improvements and fixes that were not covered in this video, but if you guys like to check those out, as always, I will put the full update post in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and do all that gibberish, because MeLikeBigBoom is out.